so from January to August when I bought it, the cops were called to this property over 700 times.
What's up, guys? Today we have special guest Courtney Toguchi. Courtney is one of the biggest flippers in Hawaii. The last 5 years, he's made over $1 million flipping houses right here in Hawaii. Welcome to the show, bro.
Hey, thank you, Daniel. I'm very grateful to be here. Honored, definitely to be on your show.
So I mean, like, I've known you for a little while, and you're like one of the most like undercover assassins I feel like in the Hawaii real estate, because you don't have a big social media following. You're not like really like, you don't really put yourself out there, but behind the scenes, you're just like straight crushing it in the real estate game.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that I mean, early on, I was never a big social media person, and in fact, I sort of steered my kids away from not being on social media too much too. So with steering my kids away, I mean, I had to set an example and not be on it as much.
Yeah, because you're telling your kids not to be honest, but it's like you can't be on it too, right? So,
right, absolutely. Yeah, so that was my thing of not why I really wasn't on social media a lot, but I understood that it played an important factor in the business and just helping get exposure out there. But I just figured, hey, you know what? I mean, I was doing all right without it, and so I'll just continue to roll with what I was doing and just get that going.
But so you're actually looking to start maybe like get some social media presence now that you kind of, I guess, are seeing the value of it in like some of the other investors?
Yeah. So what's funny is now that I decided that, hey, I want to do a little bit more social media.
Yeah.
Now when I ask my kids for help, they have no idea how to help me because I've kind of kept them away from it their whole life. So they're learning with me, and I'm trying to get them to assist me with this. But it's almost like we're both trying to help each other out because I kind of kept them away from it. So, but yeah.
It's probably healthy. I mean, honestly, like the social media has been like really instrumental and powerful, I think, for our growth as investors and what we've done. But at the same time, I think when you're a younger kid, it can be a big distraction. And there's a lot of, for people, it's also a big like sinkhole, right? Like they call it the doom scrolling, where you're just looking at social media and like for the next thing you know, 2 hours have passed by and you haven't accomplished anything, right? So there's always that challenge as well too.
Right, absolutely. And so, but I've come to understand that the era that I grew up in and social media wasn't really needed. But I think moving forward, for not only the benefit of my children as well too, but that I think it's something that they need to know, because if not, they're going to get left behind because the way the world is going and the powerful presence of social media is definitely going to help them. So now I've kind of changed my mindset on letting them explore that option of social media. And so hopefully they'll be able to control it on their own. And I think I've set a good enough example for them to kind of manage what they look at and how long they're on it.
Well, we're glad that you changed your mind, because now we get to talk to you on this podcast and just kind of see like just the amazing things you kind of done in the past like 7 to 10 years that you've actually been investing in real estate. To me, it's crazy that you've made so much and you've done so much with just a one-man show. And at one point, you're working a full-time job while you're making like $1 million a year flipping houses, right? Yeah,
absolutely. So I started the real estate journey back in 2014.
Okay,
and
2014.
So I was working a full-time job. And
over
actually,
over at Pearl Harbor
for the federal government, and actually just left my full-time job in September of last year, 2023.
Crazy.
So I was literally running a business and working 40 hours a week for 9 years.
So 2014 to 2023, you're working a full-time job and flipping houses, doing all these other crazy things. And what's crazy to me is that you were making basically like $1 million flipping, and where you're making like $100,000 at Pearl Harbor, and then like why spend so much time, 40 plus hours a week out of your W-2 when you're making so much on this side? To me, I never understood that.
And that's the $1 million question. That's what everybody asks me is that same question right there. Is why did I still work at Pearl Harbor when I was making all this money? And without going too much into detail about it, and it's to keep the story short, it was to keep my family happy and keep my wife especially happy. And so with being a real estate investor and entrepreneur, there is some unknowns out there.
Yeah, definitely.
And so my family felt a lot more safer with the steady income. And so to keep them happy in the meantime, I was just going to work and doing my 40 hours. But I was definitely a high achiever at work as well, too.
Okay.
So I think it's just in me. I'm one of those people that are always trying to improve and be as efficient as possible, and kind of changing the norm of as far as what the normal person might do.
Did you always, I feel like you have a big motor, like just to achieve and accomplish things. Were you always like that since you were a kid?
Yeah, I think I was just born like that. I mean, I'm a super competitive person, like in sports. Like I play, I mean, I've tried almost every sport. Like my wife goes crazy with this because I watch, now that I have a little bit more time, I watch a lot of sports too. But I watch from everything from rock skipping to belt sander racing. Yeah, it's actually a sport. And so it's on ESPN.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
And so when you're a child growing up, you're at the beach and we're skipping rocks, and so like all those things, like everything that I try to do, like I'm almost competing with myself at times, and sometimes it does create maybe unnecessary stress, or because I'm trying to always improve whatever I'm doing. So, but yeah, I mean, as far as the motor behind it, I'm always been out there and giving 100% on whatever I do.
Well, it's definitely showed in your results. So 2014, how did you're working at Pearl Harbor, and then how did you actually get introduced or started real estate investing?
Yeah, so that's a pretty funny story too. So actually, I used to have several boats, like throughout. I used to love fishing, and love taking my kids on the water. So I had several boats, and in 2013, I was rebuilding a boat. So I never ever rebuilt a boat before, but 2013, I seen a boat that I wanted to imitate, and I decided, I'm gonna go home and cut my boat up and learn from YouTube on how to rebuild a boat. So that was a long story. So 13 months later, I'm working in the boat every day. Motor of doing everything, like I'm actually...
and are you looking on YouTube? How are you learning how to do all this stuff?
Yeah, just on YouTube, and I would watch 1 hour and go out and work on the boat, and watch another hour. So I was in the boat every day after work for minimum 4 hours, and on the weekends, minimum 12 hours a day. And so while I'm in the boat working on it, I hear this radio commercial come up on the radio, and it's a company that's has an ad on every single station, maybe every 10 minutes. And so there's no way you can get away from it. It's on every station. And so it's like, hey, my team is looking for a few motivated individuals to join our real estate team and learn how to flip houses. And so 2013, I'm hearing that every single 5 to 10 minutes while I'm working in the boat. And I'm like, oh, I should go to that. But knowing myself, like I know if I go to this event, I'm never going to finish my boat, because I'm going to jump into that real estate journey and I'm never, ever going to finish the boat.
Focus, getting a full steam ahead over there.
So that's what my wife tells me, is like, when I go in one direction, like I'm going to head in that direction no matter what it takes. And so 2013, I'm listening to that commercials, and I'm like, okay, I got to talk myself out of going to it. So I decided, okay, I'm not going to go. Then that program came to Hawaii. They did their thing, and then they left. So now 2014 comes around. My boat's just about done. And so I hear this same company,
same guys on the radio again.
Yeah, coming back to Hawaii, and with the same commercial on the radio every 5 minutes. They're on TV now. They have commercials and so forth. And so I'm like, I'm done with the boat. And let's go to this. So by that time, I started a little photo booth company. And
so you're kind of like a serial entrepreneur. You've kind of been doing like a lot of things all the time, just dabbling, like creating. Basically, to me, I think creating your brand new boat is the kind of entrepreneurship, because you never done it before. You're just trying to you're basically learning new things and you implement them right away.
Yeah, absolutely. So between 2013 and 2014, I had this idea to start a photo booth company. And it was real small back then. Photo booths were a real small industry back then, but I started one and quickly gained momentum in that business. And so now I had events booked out almost every weekend. And so I was making pretty good money working on the weekends.
What's pretty good money?
I was making about, in the first year, I made about 40-something thousand in the first year.
From photo booths on the weekends.
On the weekends.
Dude, that's insane.
And so now when this company comes back in 2014,
Okay.
I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to it. So I go to their free 2-hour program.
Okay.
And just, I mean, that's what all these companies will do, give you a free 2-hour. Then, so at the 2-hour event, they promote a 3-day event.
Okay.
So the 3-day event was like $200.
Okay.
And so I was like, oh, I got some good information in this 2-hour event. Let me go to this 3-hour event. And so the 3-hour event is, our 3-day event, sorry, is Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So I signed up for it, and between the time I signed up for it to the actual day of the events, I had bookings for that Saturday and Sunday. So I was like, darn, man, I can't attend these Saturday and Sunday because I have events. So I go, so I took off from work, called in sick.
Okay.
Called in sick from work. Went driving there to this event. And in my mind, I was telling myself, I know they're going to sell me something at the end of this event, and I'm not going to buy anything.
Okay.
So that was my whole mindset. I remember that day.
You're preparing yourself knowing that it's going to be a sales pitch at the event. And so preparing yourself not to make an emotional decision, right? Because like a lot of times it's when you're going to these events, it's an emotional pitch at the end where like you make an emotional decision and then later on you regret the decision that you made, right?
Right, absolutely. And I think like important events in your life, you remember all these details. And so I remember that day like it was yesterday. I remember what lane I was in. I remember the sun shining in the windshield, through the windshield, like, and putting the visor down. And so I remember that day very clearly. So driving there, I'm thinking, okay, I'm not going to buy anything. I'm only going to attend Friday. I called in sick for my job, so I'm only going to attend Friday. Saturday and Sunday is I won't be able to attend. Photo booth day, yeah. So I'm going to make $2,400 photo booth. And so I paid $200 for the event. So I was like, okay, I can afford to miss Saturday and Sunday. Yeah. So I go there Friday, super nervous. My first ever event or conference or workshop in my life.
Oh, and not even real estate, just in general.
No, this was real estate, but this was, in general, in general. Yeah. First event in general ever, with something like that. So I'm there, I'm nervous. I'm there before the event starts. Everybody's waiting outside the door. I'm not talking to nobody. Like, I'm just kind of listening. Like, I'm nervous. I don't know who to talk to, what to say. And so, but I knew that I wanted to get the most out of this day because I only have Friday to attend. Yeah. So my whole objective was to rush to the front row and sit in the middle seat.
Okay.
And so prior to this, when I'm at my full-time job at work, like everybody wants to sit in the back of the room.
I'm like that, dude.
Everybody wants to sit in the back.
But I feel like it's changed over the years. Like it's actually credit to my partner Josh, where he would always reserve seats in the front of these conferences for us. I'm like naturally I just want to sit in the back, but because he already always like sits and reserves seats in the front, I've been starting to sit in the front, and actually you get a lot more. I feel like there's something like you get more from the speakers, from the things when you're in the front, and just the attention is different. Like the energy is different when you're in the front of the audience or the room.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like when you're in the front row, especially, there's no way you can sleep because you're right there. True. Like the speakers, so there's no distractions. You don't see nobody on their phone. Like
you're engaged.
If you're several rows behind, you'll see people on their laptop, on their phone, doing whatever else. So that was my whole objective on that day, was to be in the front row in the middle seat.
Okay.
So I rushed there to the front row, sat in the middle, and the event started. So the speaker came up, introduced himself, and within the first 30 minutes of the speaker giving his presentation, it was like he was talking directly to me about my photo booth business, about all the little issues and problems I was having within my photo booth business. I was making decent money for a weekend gig, but there was some issues and some efficiencies that I needed to improve.
Okay.
So this speaker it was like he was talking directly to me. Like I felt it in my soul. Like I still remember how it felt. And so I was like blown away on this. Just within the first hour, I was crazy. Like blown away.
Okay.
And so now the rest of the day is going and we go out to lunch. So lunchtime comes and I'm like, damn, this was good. All this information right here was worth the $200. And I don't care if I miss Saturday and Sunday. I think I got enough value in just this several hours.
Yeah.
And I can take this away and use it in my photo booth business. So I find the speaker during lunch before he's walking back into the room. And so I just wanted to give him thanks, like
Yeah.
just tell him thank you for sharing. And it felt like he was talking directly to me. And so we start just talking generally, and he asked me, cause I told him that I can't attend Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
So he's like, why can't you attend? So I told him I have a photo booth event. He didn't even know what that was, but he was like, oh, okay. And so he said, what do you do? So I give him a little
Background about yourself.
Background about that business. And so he's like, oh, great. Do you have any competitors? And so like in my mind, I'm like, yeah, I have these competitors. So I said, yeah, I have, there's other competitors out there. And he was like, great. Have you ever called them? And I was like, no, I never spoke to any of them. He said, have you seen any of their products? And I was like, yeah, I've seen products that they have. And
yeah.
So he was like, great. So he said, do you want to attend Saturday and Sunday? And I was like, I do, but I have these events. And so he said, well, if you really want to attend Saturday and Sunday, here's what you're going to do. You're going to call up these companies. You're going to introduce yourself, and you're going to see if they want to take over your events for Saturday and Sunday. And so I'm like, in my mind, the competitive person that I am, I'm like, hell no, I'm going to give away my events. Like, I worked for these events to get it. I'm not going to give them away to nobody. And so, but I'm just trusting him because of the information he gave me.
Yeah, so far,
I was like, okay.
It's like the first day earned the second day, basically.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, let's just do it. So I call up these two companies and introduce myself and offer them to take
the gigs. Yeah.
But so prior to calling, he tells me, but you're going to tell them in exchange for $100 referral fee.
Yeah.
So I do that. And so these companies gracefully and very excitedly take these events.
Yeah.
And so I'm like still shocked and kind of trying to figure out what's going on. I'm like deer in headlights. Like, I don't know what I just did. Like in my mind, I'm like, I just lost money.
Yeah.
Like I gave these events away. Yeah. Then after I get off the phone with those people, he's like, so
he's there while you're making
standing
the phone
right
calls.
there. Yeah. He's standing. Okay. This is literally in maybe a 5-minute span.
Okay. So he's giving you, what I love about this is how quick action happens. I think so many times when I see successful people, as soon as you learn something, you apply it immediately. And so this is like a perfect example of this, where like you got the advice, he's standing right there, you make the phone calls right there, you talk to your competitors, you make a decision, and then boom, like you're on to the next thing, right? So.
Right. So they take the events. I'm still shocked, and so I get off the phone, and now he's telling me like, so they're not competitors. You have to look at these people as future partners that you're going to do deals with or do opportunities with. So he said, what's going to happen is now that you've gave them events, when they get events that they can't handle, they're going to call you and give you events.
Wow.
And so that was like, I was like blown away. Like somebody to just think of that idea right on the spot. And so now I was able to attend Saturday and Sunday. Yeah, I made far less money.
Let's come on this idea what just happened right now. So you are running a photo booth business. You had bookings like for on Saturday and Sunday, and then because you're so busy, you called up some competitors and offered them for a referral fee. In the future, when they're too busy, they're gonna give you they're gonna think of you first. I feel like this also happens in the investing world, right? Sometimes we have deals, we have opportunities where we can't take them down. Like, who do you think of first? You, instead of only just trying to keep it to yourself, you offer it to a friend or a colleague. You give them a ton of value. They're super grateful when they have extra or they have something that they want to, like either money or deals that they want to give away. Who do you think they're gonna come to first, right? It's gonna come to you. This has actually happened to us before in the past. It's crazy. So
yeah, so absolutely. So now I'm able to attend Saturday and Sunday, and I mean the information is just overwhelming. Okay. All the light bulbs in my head are going off. Like, this is great. I definitely can do this. So, but the challenge was now every day I have to go home and explain this to my wife. And
because she's not there listening,
she's not there because my daughter, so my youngest child, my daughter, she was a few months old.
Okay.
So my wife was at home with my daughter. And so every day, Friday, I'm going home. I'm excited. I'm explaining to her what I learned and probably butchered everything what I told her. Like, I'm pretty sure. And so Saturday is when this program gives you the hit with the price of how much it is to join this mentorship.
And what is the price?
So there was 3 levels. The middle level was $25,000. the top level was 50,000.
Wow.
And I
So
think the bottom level was 10,000, if I'm not mistaken, or 12,000.
That's not like that's not no like small amounts right there.
Yeah,
so.
and this is in 2014 when so I mean and I was
Because like, how much were you making in a year at your job?
at that point maybe 60,000, maybe
So
70,000.
basically more than a year's salary, because after taxes you pull home like 40 grand. So this $50,000 investment, if you're to choose to do it, is more than your entire year's salary, which would be stupid to do, honestly.
Right.
So, okay.
Right. So I go home, like I want to do it in my mind. I want to do this, and so I'm having to go home, explain to my wife, trying to convince her, and trying to explain to her. But she has no idea because this is all new information to me. So I'm trying to explain it
all
to her.
All she knows is like, oh, my husband comes home and he wants to spend 50 grand on
Yeah.
some like thing that like he's getting sold on, right?
So I told her, no, let's go with the 25,000.
Okay.
And so she's still questioning it. She's like, our daughter is only 7 months old. This is a lot of money.
Yeah.
And prior to that, which was a blessing in disguise, we actually got somewhat scammed on a rental that we wanted to buy in Las Vegas.
Okay.
And so we had no idea about real estate investing. We just thought we wanted to buy a rental in Vegas because my dad lives there, and we wanted to travel there. And so but we got scammed. Not a lot of money. We lost maybe I think we lost less than $1,000. But later I found out that how the world operates in the real estate space. And so but now so we didn't put a down payment for that rental, so we were able to have some money to pay for this program.
Because you're planning to buy a rental, but you decided not to, so then we had some money like set aside for real estate, basically.
Yeah, and a little, and so I still had to put some of it. I think I had maybe about 15,000 for this program that I could put down, and then the rest I put it on credit cards.
Okay,
like I put it on a credit card. Like I knew I wanted to do this, and so my wife, knowing how I am, she's like, well, if you want to do it, I know you're stupid enough to go and follow through, right? See it through completion. So, okay, I think you can do it.
That's huge. I mean, like the number one, the fact that your wife gives you the green light to make this big investment, and then she believes in you. I think the big thing is when your wife believes in you and like you have her full support, you're able to run so much faster than if it was like some kind of a disconnect or some kind of like a clash in opinions, right?
I mean, it definitely helps to have your significant other supporting you and you not just going behind their back
in the same direction, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I joined that program and that was the start of it. And it was just a ton of information. I didn't tell. And the other thing is, once I joined, I never told any family members that I joined. And so maybe for anybody out there who's thinking of joining a program and it does cost money or whatever it is. And so I never told nobody because I was just afraid and didn't want any negative feedback and like, hey, what, you're so dumb, you did this, or we shouldn't have paid this. So for 6 months, I never told nobody, not even my mom, nobody knew I signed up for this program. And it was just learning and spending time, several hours a day learning. And
So six months, like just learning. How long did it take you to get your first deal?
The first deal was, so after I started to finally reach out to people and tell people, then it was about 3 months later.
Okay, so
about 9 months after.
9 months after joining, you got your first deal.
Yeah.
And then what did you end up netting on that first deal?
That first deal was like 91,000 or somewhere on there.
Insane. So your first deal, you're making 60 grand a year in your regular W-2. You join a mentorship where you learn about real estate investing, and then your first deal, you made more than like your whole year salary. And
yeah,
like,
absolutely.
It's crazy. And like not even more, it's like double almost, like 90 grand versus like 60, right? It's
right. And so, but throughout the whole time, throughout the whole project, I'm nervous. Like I'm like afraid for my life because I don't want to lose anything. I'm thinking of my daughter every day. Like I can't lose this money. So like it was a big, mindset and mind shift to get over. But
did you, when you're going through the project, was it you by yourself? Did you have any mentorship, any partners? It
was by myself, but there was that mentorship of that program that I signed up for. So I did sign up for that $25,000 level program, and so there was that kind of mentorship.
Was there like a guy or girl who was actually hand holding you through it, or were you doing it yourself?
I was kind of doing it myself. So there was no one like here in Hawaii or doing it with me. So I was kind of just doing it myself. And and just trying to take whatever advice or whatever tips they give me and then trying to implement that. So I would be at Home Depot every morning. I would be like just trying to find contractors.
Going through the whole process. And I think like a lot of times in investing, it seems very easy because you see the end result of like what you've accomplished, but they don't see that first 9 months of you several hours a day learning, going to Home Depot, talking to people, and really that first initial grind I feel like it's no joke. I feel like people quit after the first 6 months. So like usually they're like excited, then 6 months later it dies down and then you quit. And they never make it to that 9 month mark where they get their actual first deal.
Absolutely, yeah. I just had a conversation with someone about this same exact thing yesterday. They're a newer investor getting started, and so I was just mentioning that same thing about we got to put in a lot of work up front to get the machine turning, get the wheels going, and we're not going to see much results in the beginning.
Yeah.
But once we get the momentum going and get that first deal under our belt, then everything starts to open up. But you can't look at it as trying to just fly through everything really quick. Like I think if you want to be successful, you have to put in the details and put in the work to go and find these contractors. Yeah, we can get introduced to a contractor by our family member, friend, but if you want to find somebody, you got to have a Rolodex of like 100 to find maybe 2 or 3 good ones.
People don't realize the amount of work I think it takes on these things, because you can do it like the quick and easy, like lazy way, or you can put in the work and get the good results. And so the same thing, I think when I started out of state investing, it was like, do you want to just have one phone call conversation or 3 and pick the best out of 3, or do you want to have 100 and get way more information and find like more information and find like that 1 out of 100 versus the 1 out of 3, right?
Absolutely.
And it just matters on how much work you want to put in. And I think most people, like myself included, are very lazy, where we want the easiest path of resistance, where, oh, we're good, we found one, let's just go with this. And then down the line, you're gonna have some pain because you didn't put the due diligence or the work up front to prevent that down the line issues that would be happening, right?
Right. And I think it depends on the person, the individual. Like for me, I'm a person that kind of thinks for the long run. So like I could just do it at a real
quick pass,
and but if I'm looking for the long run, like I gotta build a foundation and build everything from the bottom up to make that process and last as long as I can. So I would be at Home Depot every morning at 5, and so I would start work at 6:30 at my full-time job, but I would be at Home Depot at 5 a.m. And my mindset on that was, if they're at Home Depot at 5 a.m. That means they're going to have their materials loaded up in their cart by 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
And they're going to be paid by 6:50. They're going to pay for their materials by 6:15, be on job site by 7 o'clock, 7:30. So you'll get 8 hours worth of work. Versus if you're finding a contractor who's there at 9 o'clock. Yeah. They're not going to be at your job site till 10:30, 11 o'clock.
That's a really good tip for finding a good contractor.
And so, that was my mindset, is finding somebody who's there early, because that gives them the most amount of time they can be on your job site. And especially if they're there at 9, then 10 o'clock comes around and it's almost lunch break. So are they really going to get started? They're just going to unload their tools just enough to get ready for lunch, right? So it was like, I would never, like for me in the beginning, if they were there at that time, it wasn't even, and they were loading materials. Yeah. And especially a lot of materials. You can tell a contractor who's just maybe picking out one thing because maybe they need one extra piece versus somebody who's picking up a bunch of materials.
For the job for the day.
So that was my mindset going into it. And then just learning through the mentorship and the program of how to pay these contractors. And like that's a big part that I think is underrated is finding contractors and how to manage your contractors is a big underrated part in the business that most people kind of skip over because they just want to do the fast, easy way. They don't want to learn the details of it. But one contractor from another can be $40,000 difference if you know what you're doing. And if you know how to manage them, you know how to pay them, it can be a $40,000 difference. So that $40,000 can be a difference. That can be the profit. Right? So. Yeah, absolutely. And so I think for people out there, like just getting a little more understanding of the contractor side of it is super important in my opinion, because it opens up a lot more opportunities for a deal that maybe may not work for somebody else because the numbers, they're paying 40,000 more than you.
You know, I mean, so I feel like after having conversations with you, you do a really good job of managing your contractor budget. I think a lot of times where like for us, like let's say like the deal doesn't make sense because like the budget is too high, you're able to like maximize that portion of the deal where you can buy a little higher because you have such a good and tight control on your contractor budget.
Yeah. I think that's a big part of it that helps me get a lot of deals, is being able to manage the contractors. And so
but this takes a lot of work because like you're working 40 hours a week at Pearl Harbor while you're flipping houses and managing contractors yourself. How many projects are you doing at any given point in time?
Like the most I was doing at one time was 7. Like I had 7 going on while working full time. And so that was pretty challenging. Like it was a lot of work and a lot of managing, but I knew that in any project that I do, the most work or the most time that is spent is in the beginning stages of the rehab and at the very end stage of the rehab.
Right, explain that to me.
So in the beginning, there's all these decisions that need to be made. Once they do demo, open up walls, and you find more things wrong, and then you have to reconfigure maybe the floor plan because... So there's more decisions and time that needs to be spent in the beginning stages. But once it reaches like the drywall stage all the way to maybe closer to the ending stages, it's pretty slow. I mean, there's
so when you say slow, time that you're involved. So
time that I'm involved.
Workers are working, but then like the time that you need to be there is in the very beginning to like make decisions on any kind of issues that are going to be popping up.
Yeah, absolutely. And then in the very ending, when it's all those little detail things of towel bar holders, toilet paper holder, all those little things.
The finishing touches, right? And like the real design kind of parts.
Yeah, then that's where you have to come in more and kind of spend more time to make sure the guys are not missing these things or so it's in the beginning and in the end. So like because I knew that I could sort of manage and I was kind of picking and choosing when I was buying homes. Fortunately, I had a good enough lead flow that I was able to kind of pick and choose when I wanted to buy and not getting stretched out too thin.
Yeah.
And
well, I mean, to me, 7 projects while you're working a full-time job, and by being a single guy, I mean, like, or a solopreneur, that seems stretched pretty thin to me, in my opinion.
So most people would ask me, like, how the hell are you doing this? And for me, it was like, don't even think about it. Like, I don't even think about it. I just do it. Like, I think the moment you start to think about, like, how am I going to do all this 7 or how am I going to do all this work, then your mind will naturally just kind of slow you down because you're going to get overwhelmed. So it's almost like a person that is maybe a hoarder, for example, and they have a ton of stuff in their home and now they have to clean their home. But if they look at the whole entire home and this envisioning they got to clean this whole entire home, it's overwhelming for that person.
So you get paralyzed by like just the thoughts. And so like your strategy is as soon as you have to do something, boom, immediate action, as opposed to like thinking like, am I going to be able to do this? Or kind of like really strategize. You just like need to do something, just immediately do it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was never a goal setting person in my life growing up. Like, I mean, I had goals of like playing in the NBA or playing basketball or whatever. But then dreams, absolutely. And so, but I was never a goal oriented person. And so after joining this program, I mean, I was like, that's one of their things. Like in the beginning, in the first several stages of the program, they want you to change your mindset and they're kind of trying to reprogram your mind to a certain extent. And so I was like, you know what? I paid $25,000 for this program. I mean, I better just try it. Like, I don't know. I don't really believe in it, but I'll try it.
Whatever they tell you to do, just do the work and see what happens.
So I started setting goals and they breaking down a 5-year goal to 3-year goal and then a 3-year goal to yearly goals. What was your initial 5-year goal when you first started? Oh, I don't remember. I think it was just to buy my primary residence. I think at that point, like it was
buy a house in Hawaii, basically.
Yeah, it was just buy a house in Hawaii, and I mean, it wasn't anything real outrageous. It was just something that I wanted to do for my family.
Well, depending on where you are financially, buying a house in Hawaii can be outrageous.
Yeah, right? So. Absolutely. So we were in a 2-bedroom at that time, and so but then I wanted to have enough bedrooms for all of my kids. So that was the goal, was just to buy a bigger home and to get into our own home. And so now setting these goals, it was breaking down these goals into yearly goals, and then into monthly goals, and then into weekly goals, then into daily tasks. And that's what was, I think, the shift in the business was breaking down all these goals into like a daily task where you're not even really thinking of it as a goal, because sometimes the word goal
There's
can
a disconnect between the daily task to like the end result way down the line.
yeah. So it was breaking it down to daily goals and just doing these simple things, but simple things, these small little things over 7 days add up to a significant amount, and then at over 30 days adds up.
People don't realize this. That's so good. Like when you're doing like the daily task, like you don't see any result, right? Like you do something, like, let's say like you're trying to lose weight, like you like eat a little less for 7 days, you see nothing. Then 15 days, 30 days later, you start to see a little bit of change. And then a year later, it's a massive change.
Right.
But the same with investing, where you're doing these little daily tasks. Okay, you're calling realtors, you're putting in offers, you're talking to contractors. No difference, no change. After like a month, after 2 months, after 3 months, after 4 months, okay, now let's just start to get a little bit of traction. It's such a long process or like cycle from when you're actually doing the result to, the task to actually when you see the result.
Yeah. I think that's a big part to kind of wrap your mind around. And if you can kind of get over that of not seeing results up front and over these little daily tasks, then you'll be pretty well off, because these things over time will add up. So in the beginning, I was I didn't have no real estate experience, no connections with people and so forth, and so I had to build everything pretty much from the scratch. So like every weekend I would go to open houses. Like every Sunday I would go to open houses. And my thing was, okay, I'm going to try to meet 5 or 6 agents, and I'm going to practice analyzing a deal. So I'm going to network with 5 or 6 agents, make that relationship with them. Also being able to practice and simulate that these homes are going to be a potential deal with just the software and spreadsheets that you use. And then
putting
also
your reps of
putting in
deals,
the reps,
right?
and even pretending that these homes needed a bunch of repairs when it really didn't need to. But I just had to kind of trick myself, like, hey, I'm going to go to these homes, these open houses, and pretend that all the windows need to be changed or all the drywall need to be changed, and kind of just practicing getting in those reps so that I can get more comfortable with my renovation budget. And figuring out what those costs.
So it's almost like you did, like you're kind of practicing like estimating rehab costs over and over and over. You've done it 100 times before you get your first deal. When you get your deals, it's like, I've done this thing so many times already. I feel way more comfortable and confident, and I kind of figured out the little nuances because I've done it so many times already.
Yeah, and so on top of that was also networking with all these agents. So now my kind of thing is, like, what I tell people is you just got to imagine that every agent knows 1,000 people wherever you live. And so the more people that you tell what you do, the more thousands of people that are going to be a possibility for an opportunity for you to buy. So if you only meet one agent or if you only rely on one agent because your agent is your friend or your wife's friend or your family member, then you're only limited to 1,000 opportunities, 1,000 people out there. But if you connect with 100 agents, now that's 100,000 people. You have a possibility. Difference. So that was one of my things too, was just networking with all these agents. And one thing I want to touch on is, like, people, I get it. Like, tech is a big part in the world now, and people want to do as much as possible with the least amount of effort. So everybody likes to use tech, whatever it is, AI, emails, text blasting to all these agents. Like, anybody can go on the internet and find a bunch of agents and send them an email.
Like a mass text, like basically a spam text kind of.
Yeah, but what I've seen and the results that is that the lowest level is either a text or an email as far as
the interaction,
building rapport with them.
Got you.
Then the next level is maybe a phone call. But the ultimate level is you want to meet with them face to face. And so going to these open houses and meeting them face to face has a lot more value than just calling. I would rather meet 10 agents face to face than trying to meet or sending an email to 50 agents.
That's genius. That's really good. I mean, I've done the route of just calling and texting like 1,000 agents, but honestly, we haven't had good results. I think probably because it's just spam, right? And so like the only agents who respond to us is either they don't have anything else going on or like they're bored, like, you know.
Yeah. So I think building that rapport and building that connection with them is super impactful. And
That's
so you'll get a lot better results.
So how many deals have you done total so far in your flipping career?
Flipping on Oahu, I've done over 100.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, over 100.
From 2014 to 2024, over 100 deals, fix and flips in that span.
Yeah.
And probably in the beginning, it was like none or like 1 or 2, and then now it's like 10, 15, 20 a year.
Yeah. So I probably could have done a lot more. And I know I could have done a lot more, but it was making sure that I'm not overreaching too far and not stretching myself too thin, because I didn't want to be in a spot where something happens, the market changes or whatever happens, and now I'm kind of putting my family at risk.
Yeah.
So it was more of just kind of managing what I could and taking on only whatever I could. And so that was the reason. Like, I definitely could have done more. I probably wouldn't have done a lot more, but I could have done more, just not.
Well, I mean, making $1 million a year for the past several years, I think is pretty good enough. I would say personally, but I mean, everybody has their own standards.
Yeah. And so I think like, but on the other hand, like, it did take a lot of time, right? It does take us entrepreneurs, and especially in the real estate, like, everybody wants to do real estate.
Yeah.
And the numbers are good, are great. And so with that, it's a harder road maybe to get started in versus maybe like something real simple that you can do.
So the ceiling is higher, but then the floor is lower, right? Yeah. So like when you start at W-2, let's say like your bottom is like $12 an hour. I will never make less than this, even if I do absolutely nothing. But then my ceiling is maybe less, like $25 or $30 an hour, right? But then as an entrepreneur, your ceiling is like negative. Like, you can be spending money, like trying to market, trying to learn. You're like negative, like 25 grand to start. But then the ceiling is like $1 million a year plus, right? Like, so just the ceilings are a lot higher, but then the floor is also negative. And so
right. And so it did take a lot of time from me and away from the family, and especially my daughter when I started, she was several months old, and so like, there was some sacrifice there. And I think just so everyone understands, in the beginning there is going to be some sacrifice. You can't just sit behind a computer, and I mean, maybe you can, maybe there's people that can do it, but it's I think for the most part, you need to put in time. You need to get out there, go to events, network with people, and just all those things. And so there is some sacrifice that is going to be needed, but I think if you think of it for the payout in the end for your family and for whatever your goals are, it definitely is worth it. And so, like, for me, it was a blessing in disguise as far as COVID wise, because like from 2014 to 2019, like, I was grinding out there. I was literally, I think I probably spent between 40 to 50 hours a week in the business on top of my full-time job. And like, that's how crazy I was.
That's how it was for me too. When I first started in investing, I was working 40 hours a week in my job, and then like 80 hours investing, from like 9 to 5, regular W-2, from like 5 to like 2 in the morning, like learning, networking, analyzing deals, putting in offers, doing all the investor things. But I feel like it's having that, like, that focus, like time, like it 10x like with the results, because if you kind of just dabble in it, like it's a lot slower absorption. There's a lot slower to get traction. But if you just go gung ho super hard in the beginning, then you get that lift off faster. And then once you have the lift off, now you can kind of really roll and kind of like see the results and the momentum.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, so I mean, maybe that first deal, if I did play it slowly, maybe it would have took me a year and a half or maybe a year, and who knows whether I still would have had the motivation if I played it slower. So yeah, like, to your point, I think it definitely does help to just immerse yourself as much as possible in the beginning to build that traction and gain that momentum as quickly as possible. And so COVID did help me, because now we had that lockdown, and it financially I didn't lose money, but I definitely left a lot of money on the table. But what I did gain back was the time with my family. So I think for me, it was a good thing, even though
So kind of force you to take a break and see, like, reimagine or have a different perspective on where your time and like your priorities were.
Yeah, because I was at home a lot more now because we were locked down on work for a bit, and so I was at home more. We couldn't really go out and look at more. I mean, as many deals as I was before. So
you were kind of forced to do more family time.
Yeah, which was good. So we would do more beach things. The beach would be super empty. No one would be out at the beach. We would be at the beach. Like it was great.
Dude, I remember when there was lockdown. I went to Waikiki. It was like a ghost town. There was like chickens in a row in Waikiki. It was nuts during that time. It felt like you were like in a movie almost. Like I'm Legend
apocalypse movie.
It felt like it was crazy during those times.
Yeah, so it was a different time, and it was but family wise, it was a great time for me. Like I got to reconnect with my wife and kids a lot more, and so like that definitely kind of changed my perspective after that, because I don't think if COVID didn't happen, I don't know, I still would have been grinding and putting in all those hours. So it got me to realize, like, hey, I'm doing this for the family, so I need to be there for the family.
Yeah, that's so good.
And so, but I did leave a lot of money on the table. Like once we had our lockdown, I think I had maybe six or seven projects going, and I panicked. I was scared. I didn't know what was going to happen in the world. So I told the guys, we need to get these homes done as quickly as possible, put them on the market as fast as possible, and I'll just take whatever offer that made some money, but also that I was confident in the buyer that could close. So, so like I think back then we were only supposed to have 2 people per job site.
Okay.
Like you're not supposed to have any more, but I was like, screw it. I'll whatever. They fine me, whatever, I'll pay the fine. So I would have full crews on the jobs. Like I was just trying to pump it out.
Fast.
Yeah, I was just trying to get it out and done. And so, like each home I probably left, I don't know, maybe anywhere from 40,000 to maybe 75,000 on the table just because I wanted to take whatever offer.
Yeah. The first one, get out quickly without waiting. So.
And I mean, had I known, no one knows, right? What would have happened?
In retrospect, hindsight is always 20/20.
Right. Like I would have kept it and
made another $400,000 or $500,000.
Yeah, at least. Easy. Yeah. And so I was like, but it was a good thing. I mean, it kind of set the standard. And so even during COVID, like it was, we were on, I mean, even though homes, like I was still buying homes, but I wasn't buying as many. But the ones that I were buying were, I mean, like everybody, it was going for
you're finding like
200,000 over asking. Like it would go for crazy amounts. So like I was still buying homes, but I was kind of also playing it safe as well too. Because
you knew it was gonna come down eventually.
That's Like who would have known when you have a lockdown and no one can work? Home prices would go down. Would have shot up that high. Like the longer you kept the home, the longer your rehab went, the more money you made.
It was a crazy. COVID, right after COVID, was a crazy time for us too. Like you project to make 150,000 and you make 250, not because you're a good investor, just because the market is just giving you this extra grace. And there's some guys who were buying bad deals. They would have lost 50 grand. They ended up making 100 grand because the market was saving them. So it was a kind of like a crazy time to be investing in 2021 and 2022. Ish, like around those times. Right?
And I think like that's what has sort of set not a bad example, but it's kind of giving people a false reality,
unrealistic expectations.
Because they a lot of people got in, like people were at home, so social media became a big thing, and people got introduced to real estate investing during COVID, during the lockdown, so they got into the business during those times, and they made this unrealistic or money from it. But now that the market has changed, those people that didn't spend the time to, like we're mentioning about all these detailed things, the foundation, now they're the ones that are seeing the opposite side of it and facing the struggles and maybe not doing as good as they thought they were going to do because they didn't have everything set up. But so I think, for those people, like you just need to kind of reevaluate and maybe just take a step back and like build that foundation because you have the high level knowledge of it, but now it's just adding on to that to gain those fundamental details on how to maximize each part of the business as much as you can.
Yeah. What is like the most money you've ever made on a deal?
I mean, on one deal during lockdown, like actually I bought it. Oh no, it was actually during lockdown, but that one I made, it was right in the beginning. But it was like 370 something thousand.
Dude, on one deal, or a fix flip in Hawaii, you made $370,000.
Yeah, it was a crazy, fun, interesting deal. So the details on that deal was that there was the homeowner who got put in a psychiatric institution.
Okay.
They were going through some mental problems and some psychological problems. So they got put into an institution by the state. And so now the state had to liquidate their estate.
Okay.
And so I got called for that opportunity. And so I went to go look at it, and it was crazy. Like I should have took a lot more video and pictures of it, and like there was 26 people living there. So it was
in the house, one house.
It was like a hostel. So every single bedroom, it was a big home, and every single bedroom had its own exit door out of the house.
Crazy. Okay.
And so even in the backyard, there was a fence divided in half.
Okay.
So it was like two backyards, but now picture a shack in each corner of that backyard in each half. So there's 8 shacks in the backyard, 4 in each half of this lot.
Okay.
And people are living in those shacks. And it was pretty crazy. It was a pretty crazy.
So you saw it when the house was like, there's like 26 people here in this house.
Yeah. So, and talking to the neighbors, like the neighbors were like terrified of this home, and they were afraid, and they were like almost begging me to buy it and come in to get these people out. But this is during lockdown, right? So this is right during lockdown, and we can't evict nobody.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm like, shit, what am I gonna do on this? Like, but the numbers are super good. So I'm like, okay, let's do it.
Okay.
And so I'll figure it out. And so I buy this. I'm in contract with this property, and now we're having. I have some people going there, and we're kind of just letting everyone who's staying there know that I'm the new owner. I'm buying it. We're gonna own this place on this day, so you need to find somewhere else. So most of the people left. One couple, we had to help find them a home. But then in the very end, there was one person still remaining who didn't want to leave.
The king of the castle.
Yeah, king of the castle, and he was the one that was causing probably the most terror within the neighbors of all.
Okay.
And so like he would be chanting in the middle of the road with like a spear at like 3 a.m. Like, so after I bought it and talking to the cops, like I found out like the whole history of this home. And so from January to August when I bought it, the cops were called to this property over 700 times.
In 1 year.
Year. And that's only from January to August of that year that I bought it. And so that's over 3 times a day, like they would be there. Like, dude, so it was insane. Almost like on a scheduled, like they would just automatically drive there because they knew they were going to be called there.
What were they called there for? Like what was happening?
It was just all kind of things. So the owner would take in homeless people, and they would bring their things in the home, and the next day she would go through some nervous breakdown or whatever it is, and kick the homeless person out, throw other things on the road, and now they would be fighting. And so there would be just things scattered on the road. And this is in a pretty good neighborhood in Hawaii too. This is in Kailua, it's in a pretty good neighborhood.
Nuts.
And so the cops would be called. There's numerous things, and the neighbors would get threatened. The kids wouldn't play on the road because their parents don't feel the safety for them. So but this one person decided to stay, and so I had to kind of work with some attorneys to get some advice, and like we knew we couldn't go through the eviction because this was during lockdown. We had to come up with another plan, and so the plan was, being that I'm the owner, I can let anybody move in.
Okay.
And so he's still there. I can't kick him out, but I can let anybody else move in. Yeah. So I had some people that we'll call my family move in, and we had them take off. I had them take off all the doors.
Okay.
All the doors in the whole house because we were going to renovate this place,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
the person who decided to stay there knew that we were going to renovate this
Yeah,
place.
yeah,
So we
yeah.
took off all the doors,
Okay.
all the doors, every single bathrooms, and all the doors. And so whenever this person would go and sit, my family would go and sit next to him. And whenever so it was pretty much, he had a friend sitting next to him, whether he wanted to have that friend or not have that. Like,
So
he had no
it's
choice.
genius. I mean, you're basically just letting your family come inside and stay with your tenant, or not really tenant, or squatter.
Right.
And then the thought is eventually just make it just not the best place for environment for him to want to stay.
Yeah. So he stayed there 2 days later,
Okay.
and then he
It's
was
not
gone.
worth it. Like,
yeah.
so
He was gone. So then after that, we were able to do our thing, but it was a pretty interesting place because the way it was built and
how many doors?
makeshift
You said, like, there's
walls.
all these doors, all these
There
bedrooms,
was
like into the exterior.
there was probably maybe 12, more than 10 doors for sure, leading
Crazy,
outside.
like,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
And so, there was just a ton of people living in there, and so cleared the place out, renovated it, and then put it on the market. And so, but throughout that time, just getting to know the neighbors, and they were so like happy that someone was able. So even the day I bought it, or the first week that I bought it, the police was still coming there because it was almost like their routine drive-by property they got to go and check on because they know they're going to get called. So when they seen someone new, like they thought we were the new squatters or the new homeless people there. So it was like, oh no, I'm the new owner. And he's like, you bought this place? I'm like, yeah, I bought this place. He was like, so what are you going to do with all the people? I said, oh, there's only one person left. And he's like, everybody else left? I was like, yeah, everybody else left. So we became good friends. And so he said, well, if you need anything, just let me know because you guys are taking or giving us a lot more time back because now we don't have to show up here. So if you need any help, let me know. And so by working with these people and working with there's actually several more homes in the area that that the people or the
they reached out to you guys.
Yeah, the state is trying to
clean up.
Like yeah. So we're just waiting for them to call and kind of waiting for that opportunity. So
I love this story though because number one, it's helping everybody involved, right? And so like you're taking a community that has it's like a lot of terror and like the neighbors are so scared and like they're having issues. You're helping to make it a safer place for their kids. Like they can come on, play outside. The cops are not coming there every day. And at the same time, you're making like a little bit of money on the process, right? So like everybody is kind of winning in the situation.
Right. Yeah. And so even one of the neighbors who lived directly across the street. So, I mean, I just became friends with everybody. I mean, naturally, that's how I kind of am. I just talk to everybody and just make friends. And so one of the neighbors actually was having his home renovated too. And his contractor kind of screwed him over and he was waiting 3 years to get his home finished and it still wasn't done. Wow. And like they actually built it to where the refrigerator and the washer and dryer for the upstairs units couldn't even go back in the home because the door was too small. So they put it on the patio on the outside deck. They framed in a door and then now they couldn't get it back in. So it was like pretty crazy. Like so I had actually some of my guys go over there after we were done with mine and go and do some work for them for free. Like just to kind of help them out and get them to the point where they needed to be so they could move back in. And so it was just helping out everybody because you never know. That's what my thing is. You never know who you help out is maybe might present another opportunity or give you another connection and just maybe not only help your business, but maybe just help you
your family.
Personally.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is too is like I've had that experience where, and a lot of times like you do this thing and not expect anything in return, right? You're like you don't expect the homeowner to give you anything back later, but what you're gonna find is you do enough of these like deeds where it just because it's the right thing to do or you enjoy doing it, eventually you're gonna get like tenfold back. but like it's just gonna come to you. It's crazy how like the universe works, where the more you value put out into the world, like the more like it tenfold comes back to you, like down the line, somewhere down the line where you're not even realizing it.
Right, absolutely. Yeah. So I believe like strongly in that, and sometimes like people would think that like I'm kind of crazy giving away stuff or doing things like that. But I mean, I think I've been fortunate in and to be where I'm at now and gain the results now. And so like I just think I owe it back. And I think that by a lot of the deals that I do get is from these type of deeds that I do years ago that comes back in some fashion or way. And so like another example is like I sold a home actually this is maybe 2021, somewhere in that range, and they had some plumbing issues, and it was actually plumbing work that was done by a contractor years ago.
Okay.
And so I never, when I went in there, renovated it, we never touched anything with that.
Yeah.
But they had some plumbing issues. It was backing up. It was flowing onto the brand new flooring and backing up in the bathrooms, in the toilets, in the sinks, and so they would shower outside. And so they called me about it, and we were actually like, at first I was gonna go to court for it because they were trying to, I guess, somewhat. They were just bringing it to my attention at first, and then they thought I was responsible for it, and so I showed them like, no, we didn't. This is the permits we got. We didn't do any of that work. It was done by this contractor back in like 2003 or somewhere on there, and so things started to escalate a little bit more, and they're trying to protect their first time home buyer.
They don't. And they're trying to do what's best for their family, right?
So they're getting advice from their agent, and it kind of leads almost like we're gonna go through a lawsuit, and so, but we end up going through arbitration at first. And so during arbitration, like I'm kind of like thinking, I mean, I'm not responsible for this at all. Like it actually went through the first buyer and their inspector, and nothing got brought up about plumbing issues or draining issues. Then it fell out of escrow because they couldn't qualify for the loan. So it went through the second buyer, which is the people who ended up buying it, and their inspector, and there was no plumbing issues. And so now when it comes, they're coming back on me. And so like I send out a plumber there to clean the lines for them, to camera the lines for them. And we find the problem. So now we address we find out what the problem is, and where I'm telling them like, hey, this is not any work that my crews did. And I'm not responsible for that. That was done years ago. And so, but now we're going to arbitration. So several months forward, we're going to arbitration. And so I'm just kind of coordinating or communicating with them through email because I don't want any emotions to get over the phone and so forth. So I'm going through my agent and she's going through the buyer's agent. And so, but we go to arbitration now. And so we actually have to meet face to face. And so, but I'm thinking, okay, going to arbitration, I'm just gonna like kind of stand my ground. Like I have all the facts to prove why I'm not responsible for it. I already got some advice from attorneys that I'm not responsible for it. So I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna pay for nothing. But meeting them in person for the first time and kind of hearing their story, seeing the kids, and like I kind of felt bad for them.
Heartstrings,
I felt bad for them, like knowing that they have to take a shower outside and use the hose outside and so forth to just take a bath because it's gonna back up in the house. So I seen their kids, and it reminded me of my kids, and I was like, I could never see my kids having to go through that. So they actually wanted $25,000 for
damages
and repairs, and like I wasn't gonna give them anything up front. But after hearing their story and kind of meeting them and kind of just becoming a little more close with them, like I ended up giving them $30,000 at arbitration for just to fix whatever they needed to fix and to make the repairs that they needed to do. So like I gave them more money. Like going in there to that meeting, I wasn't gonna give them anything.
It sounds just like when you're planning not to buy any
Yeah,
education.
yeah, exactly, same thing. So I was going in there thinking I have all the facts, I have all the paperwork, and with me, and the confidence of the attorneys that gave me advice, and so. But hearing their story, I was like, I mean, I definitely can't do this, and I need to like. I'm trying to build a brand and build a name, and so if
doing the right thing, even though it's like the thing is like it's not your fault, but you're taking responsibility for it. I think a lot of times in life, people are like, "This is not my fault, so I don't want to do it." But whenever you take responsibility for things that are not your fault, it shows kind of like who you are and it makes you a better leader. And so just like it's not necessarily whose fault it is, it's who's going to take responsibility for it, right?
Right. Yeah. So I like it was. The arbitrators were crying, like the family was crying, like I was on the verge of tears, like there at the arbitration meeting, and the arbitrators were like, they have never seen anything like this where someone would even pay more. Like they kind of had an idea, like, hey, I'm not at fault.
Yeah. So like so they weren't expecting anything at this point.
Yeah. So even the arbitrators were kind of blown away, and so but the arbitrators now kind of seen my personality and like who I am as a person. So even the arbitrator is sending me some potential leads just from something like that. Like so it's you never know. Like and just doing the right thing. And I think sometimes people whether it's a wholesale deal or whether there's they're trying to JV with somebody or whatever it is, like they're trying to get the most that they can and like nickel and dime every single thing and not thinking about the other person involved in it or what they're doing. And like for me, it's like, why are you gonna do it? Like
it goes both ways, right?
It goes both ways, yeah. Like if you want to build that long-term relationship with people and build that success for the long run and maybe create a brand for your kids or your family in the future, like you need to sacrifice sometimes. And so, that's just my take on that is like, just giving back. And like, so that's one of the things I'm trying to do now is like give back more to people and share.
You know what's really interesting I found recently is that I heard this quote from somebody. They said you need to build wealth in order to have choices. I'm butchering the quote, but basically I think the thought is like, once you have enough wealth or things to take care of your needs, now you have the choice to do what you want and find like your true purpose. Where like when you're trying to just struggle day to day and just pay the bills, like you're grinding just to survive. But once you have like a little bit of cushion, now you can say like, now I want to put my time in the things that are important. And like, it allows you to be generous in a different way. I mean, you can still be generous when you don't have a lot, but then it just allows you to have generosity in a different fashion, I feel like.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that definitely helps is by having financial stability and making money. Yeah, it does help with being a lot more generous in the financial part of it. But I think another part is like the giving back in not only financial but just in effort or in integrity or that's that other aspects of it, because a lot of people are maybe not as don't have the integrity that I would expect out of them, and like I find out later what they're doing or so forth. And so it's like, I mean, I wanted to maybe do a deal with them in the future. But now that I find out things about them, I'm like, that's not the person that I want to do a deal with. Like somebody who's going to treat other people like that and be like, if I want to do it.
So it's such short-term thinking, right? Like and we've seen this, I feel like often in our industry where people will make very short-term decisions for like the quick money. And then they leave so much down off the table because they could have had so much like partnerships, deals, and things if they just were a little bit more like more generous on the front end.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a big thing with me as far as like integrity and this like being who you say you're gonna be and just doing what you say you're gonna do. Like if you're gonna partner with somebody, if you say you're gonna bring in money, like bring in money and like. But I mean, if you can't, then have that conversation, like why you can't, or maybe you need help or whatever it is. But like, don't just kind of leave it to the other person. And because if like some people have that mentality where like they'll partner with somebody and like they'll think, okay, if I can't do it, like this other person is gonna do it, and he's gonna do it because he has a family to take care of, or he has a thing to, and that's totally uncool in my book, in my opinion. Like be upfront, be like transparent as much as possible, help out as much as you can, and if you can't for whatever reason, then have that conversation why you can't.
That's really
but
good
like
advice.
don't like I see people that will partner with someone and maybe they're supposed to be financially responsible in some parts of it, but then they say they can't do it, but yet they go and partner with somebody else on another deal. I'm like, that is totally uncool. Like
I've seen that many times before.
Yeah, and I would never do a deal with those people. Like when I hear that, I'm like, that's the people I'm not gonna ever do a deal with, just because I don't know what's gonna happen if I partner with them. Like I want somebody who's like yourself, who's like definitely has that high integrity.
We try. I mean, nobody's perfect, but yeah, we try. I think that's a big thing, is just like the integrity is doing the right thing in these situations. Right?
Yeah, to me, if you're gonna lose money on this one deal, like okay, because we'll make it up on another deal.
Yeah. The long term in mind.
The goal is not to lose money, of course, but like to me, the integrity and the value is much more important and has a emotional value or psychological value than it is for the financial value.
Yeah, 100%.
Because we'll make that money back. We'll figure out a way to do it. Like we've been in enough deals to figure out how to do it. And so
100% agree. 100% agree. Well, Courtney, it's been freaking awesome talking to you, hearing your story, and just all the cool things you've done. If people want to reach out to you or find more about you, what's the best way to do that?
I mean, like I said, I'm barely on social media, but I do have an Instagram account. So it's the Courtney Toguchi. So just THE and then my first name and last name. And so reach out to me if you want to connect. So I'm definitely going to be sharing a lot more coming up because I just see a lot more people that are struggling and going through hardships and so forth. So kind of my thing is I want to give people their first deal. Like I want to show them how to get their first deal.
I love that.
Yeah. So I don't know, maybe we can collaborate on something and see how we can do something together. But yeah, that's how you guys can reach me, or you can call me. Maybe I'll have Daniel put my number up.
Send us a DM or something and we'll get you in contact together. So.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks, bro.